the Retirement Readiness Podcast with Tim and Maddy Reagan. Presented by Prairie View Wealth and Tax Advisors. Live your 2 life.
Hi, and welcome to this episode of the Retirement Readiness Podcast. Today, I have a new co-host, Maddy Reagan. My daughter, number 2, is joining me today as we're going to talk about the new book coming out that we wrote. I guess I wrote it more than we wrote, called Shatter Your Fishbowl and Live Your 2 life. So, Maddy, you're going to join me here the next couple episodes. Hopefully, we're doing these in anticipation of Katie having the twinskies, so she can kind of take a break, but yet we can still keep our podcast going and have some different stuff to talk about. So, welcome. Yep. So, before we get started, why don't we take just a minute? Tell me a little bit about you, what role you play in Prairie View, why are you playing it, and why would you be here talking to me about the book?
So I am, since September, the head of marketing for Prairie View. Yep. It's something that I can do while I'm in school right now. And I just take a lot of pride in putting our best foot forward and kind of showcasing what we're all about. So part of my role, I read the book. So I really wanted to get on here and start talking about it because I think it's an awesome book.
Yeah. And so in school, going to be a lawyer,
social worker.
Yep. Wanted to focus on helping kids in the social work.
Yep. And child welfare system. Yep. Which is a perfect tie into marketing. And so here we go. So let's talk a little bit about the book. It was a really fun, different experience. So you read it. Yes.
And you said you liked it. And that's not just because you're my daughter, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And so the whole point of the book, the title, Shatter Your Fishbowl. As I went through this process, kind of writing it, it's funny the journey you go on. In the back of my mind for years, Grandpa and I talked about we'd write a book together. Probably 25 years ago, we started talking about it.
25 years you've been working on a book about fish?
Yes. Hey, Matthew will love it. He's a fisherman.
Yep.
And not just fish, a goldfish. Yeah, it's funny. So at least 25 years ago, Grandpa and I were talking about writing this book. Back then, we thought we would do a joint book together. And that the title was going to be Lessons Learned Around Grandma's Table. And it was going to be all about the things that you should know, right? Mm-hmm. And just those lessons. And so that has been in the back of my mind for a long time. And as I started kind of with this concept, I thought for sure that the book would be 8 chapters long. Mm-hmm. And it's now 24 or something. But they're not long chapters, right? It's a quick, easy read.
Yep.
But it's funny how just your mind starts to morph and change and go through the process. And so for me, I had a friend of mine who wrote a book, and he was very instrumental. His name's John St. Pierre. If you want to check out another great book, it's the $100 Million Journey. Great book, great author, by somebody who's an entrepreneur. And so John and I were talking, and he had shared with me a little bit about his journey and how he started. And it's funny, if you want to learn how to write a book, you can read books on how to write a book, and which I did. I read about 3 or 4 of those.
Sounds terrible.
It actually wasn't so bad. And it's funny because there are so many different paths that you can go. So one gentleman that I used, Kellen Flukiger, he wrote a number of books. He's somebody that is really good. He helps authors write books. And one of his methods is he calls it the story arc. And so his process is just like you would kind of create a picture, like the sun rises and sets type of a thing. And he's like, create that story arc for your book, and then create the different stops along that story arc that you want that book to take. Mm-hmm. His method then would say at each one of those stops, write out a note card, and then take that note card and dictate it. So you end up with this dictated book by the time you're done with it. There's another firm that it's called the Scribe Method, and they have they're just a book producing machine. They weren't my style. That they're kind of more, if you want to write a book to be like your digital business card, that kind of thing. Uh-huh. And that wasn't really what I was looking for. And then the person I used, their firm is called Joan of Arc Publishing, and Kira Brenton there is who I worked with, and Kira is kind of like a blending of a lot of things. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I was hoping to do was have the book be a little bit kind of self-help, aspirational, motivational, those things, but also interweave our family history and our family story so that it ends up being a little bit of a memoir along the way as well. And Kira happened to be the right person for that.
Well, I think it's funny you said like you thought there's going to be 8 chapters and now it's how many, and you keep adding all these things and how it shapes your brain. I just think it's funny because reading the book, I would have no clue that this wasn't the whole plan the whole time.
Yeah.
Like it just, so it's very cool. I think hearing that to see how it did actually come together and see like, how would you not have included this chapter, or how would you not have included this story? And you thought it was only going to be 8, so I think it's just.
Well, and what's kind of cool about that process, like if anybody's thinking about writing a book, it can seem like overwhelming. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be. Like there are, like I said, read books on how to write books. Like that could sound boring.
Tremendously.
But also like talk to other people that have done it. So the way I got to know John is I read his book. Mm-hmm. I liked what he had to say. I'm like, I'm going to email the guy. And so I emailed him, and he and I have become friends now that we probably talk at least once a week.
Yeah.
So he's a friend and a business consultant. And so it's like, if you have a book, you know what that book, you like the way it reads, you like the way that it is, pick up a phone.
Yeah.
In the back of the book, if nothing else, will tell you who published it. Mm-hmm. Call the publisher and say, hey, how can I get started with you? Now, there's a lot of those. Like, I'm not going to call some name Random House or Wiley, or they'll be like, who, click, that doesn't work. But there's a lot of resources out there. And what's kind of cool right now, so I did not go down this path with Kira. She and I worked more one-on-one, but what she's doing now, which is kind of interesting, is she's getting together groups of people who want to write a book, mm-hmm. Say 8 to 10 of them, carving out a week. She rents an island. These 10 authors go to the island for the week. And at the end of the week, they have the rough draft of their first book written. Mm-hmm. It's kind of cool. If you want to check it out, it's on, it's going to come out on Netflix as they're videotaping it. And so there's going to actually be like a series on Netflix about how these people go and do that. And so if you're interested, you can do everything from that all the way to get out a typewriter and start plugging and chugging and do what you want to do.
And I think that process kind of outlines like the way that a lot of things are. Like if you're interested in doing something new, there's a lot of different ways you can go about it. And there's a lot of different people that you can find that will help you along the way.
Absolutely.
And so I think from my perspective, something that's been cool is like part of the whole book is live your 2 comma life. You writing the book is you living your 2 comma life.
Yeah.
And so I think as you talk about, different paths you can go down on what your 2 comma life looks like for you, there's always going to be people who are there to help you. There's always going to be different routes you can take, and you kind of just have to look and see, well, I like what they did here. How can I kind of make this my own? And so I think it's just, you outline that process is funny because it doesn't sound like just a process you could use to write a book.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah, no, good call it. Well, and to kind of explain a little bit about what the book is. So the book ended up being, and this concept has been in my mind for quite a while.
25 years.
Yeah. Well, it's morphed a little bit in that time. But it's the Shatter Your Fishbowl. You may have heard that a goldfish will grow to the size of the bowl that it's in.
I don't think that's a normal random fact to know. You may have heard this very random niche fact. Maybe Grace knows that fact.
Grace and I both like to know things. Yeah. And so what happens is a goldfish will grow to the size of the bowl that it's in. And what actually happens is it's a combination of the boundaries that are set, but also the water inside of the bowl actually starts to become a little toxic. Mm. And it actually, if you don't manage it, it'll actually shorten the fish's life as well as kind of stunt its growth. Mm-hmm. And my thought is that we all start there. We all have a bowl that was formed, and our fish bowls were formed when we were born in the house we were born in. Did we grow up with a lot of money or with no money? Were we able to go off to college or not go off to college? Mm-hmm. Do I have these self-perceived ideas around what I'm capable of doing? And how can I get out of what those perceived things are? Yeah. Because there's an ocean of possibility that's out there that we all just kind of keep to ourselves. And that's where the 2 comma life comes in. When we talk about 2 comma life, a lot of times people might not know what it is. My picture is, I think someday, instead of like Salt Life, we're going to have like 2 comma life on every back of every Jeep that you see. But the 2 comma life is all about, if you think about $1 million, how many commas are in $1 million? And there's 2. Well,
that's also not common knowledge. Just call that out.
It's 2. There's 2, right? And so when you think about $1 million, for some people, $1 million is like more money they could ever think they could ever have. And for other people, $1 million a year wouldn't be enough for them to support their lifestyle.
Yep.
And so it's not about the $1 million. But if I said to you, well, I'll say it to you, if I asked you, what does living a millionaire lifestyle look like? What comes to your mind?
Freedom and flexibility with when I work, how I spend my time, doing all the things I care about. Yeah. Without feeling the stress or the weight of other things.
100%. And you can live in abundance, not scarcity. Yep. You can be generous. You can, and so it's all about how do I live my definition of the millionaire lifestyle? And that's where the 2 comma life kind of comes from.
Yep.
And so my thought is that as you go through and work through the book, wherever you're at in that journey, everybody's in a fishbowl.
Yeah.
Even people that you think aren't in a fishbowl. Elon Musk is in a fishbowl. It's a really big fishbowl maybe, but he's in a fishbowl too. And it's all about how can I kind of break out of that fishbowl and start leaning into and living the 2 comma life that God created me to live.
Well, and I think it kind of helps you embrace your story too, because everyone does have a story, right? And so it's like, if you realize that this is a fishbowl you're in, you can kind of come to appreciate some of those things maybe, instead of feeling a negative way about something, that maybe
100%. And how many of those things in your life are you like, I'm never changing that. Thank God that is part of my fishbowl.
Yep.
And I would never change that. But yet there are other things that you can look at and you're like, this just
gotta go.
Yeah. I need to make some adjustments there.
Yeah.
So the journey to kind of write the book was really kind of empowering. And there are times when you feel like, why can't it just be done?
Yeah.
Like, why don't I just quit? But really the process I followed by creating the story arc, then writing out each of the stops that I thought I had there. Then I dictated it. Then I took that, and it was like if I showed it to you, like literally it's like, well, I did show it to you, right?
I was going to say last summer I was going through the whole, so basically he spoke the book. And so then the words don't make sense. There's not sentence breaks, whatever, because it's the computer doing all of it from your words and like auto populating it or whatever. And so I went through and did all of that just so you could get to the next step of actually reading through editing the book.
And like actually doing something with it. And if you go back to that initial compared to now, there's no comparison to what it was to what it is now. But that was all part of the process. And then for me, I'm the type where I need to let things sit with me. Mm-hmm. So there was like one chapter that I was really struggling with, and I probably let it just sit and marinate for probably 3 weeks before it came to me like, oh, this is how I want this to tie together.
Yeah.
And then you get almost like through the end of the thing as you're writing it, and you're like, wait a minute. Did I already cover this in a different chapter? Mm-hmm. Or wait, what was over? Like you forget, and so you have to like reread it again. And, but then it goes through. So once you get that manuscript kind of put together, and it's kind of like when you wrote a report in school, right? You had your sloppy copy, and then you had to refine it. And but then once it goes to the editor like cleans it up tremendously, and all of a sudden the things where you felt like you sounded like a knucklehead comes out and sounds pretty good. Yep. So.
Well, and you had a couple of people you're closer to read through the book also, or chunks of the book. And, so getting that feedback from people you're close to too, as well as people that are actually knowledgeable in the editing was a part of that process for sure. Yeah,
100%. And so for me, my picture of the book was that it was going to help people right now, but also this is here forever now. Mm-hmm. And so my thought is I would love it if my great grandkids at some point can pick up this book and I wrote it, right? I know there are some people right now, especially with AI and some of the ghost writing that's taking place, like where they'll have an idea and it's somebody else's pen to paper. For me, it was important that it was my words, my work for that purpose, because it's going to serve kind of dual purposes. Hopefully.
Well, and I think that makes a lot of sense too, because you talked about like, yes, you want to help people, but it's also kind of like, tying in with that, the family connection and all of that. And so it's like, that is leaving your legacy behind. Yeah. And already, like you were tying in through the book, like your family and grandpa and grandma and, like go through all of that. And it's like, like you said, it is there. And that is our, our history and our legacy. And that is going to stick around. And it's just a cool thing to see. For me. Yeah.
Well, and it was funny, we just got back from vacation. We were up in the beautiful Northwoods of Wisconsin, the place that Sarah's family, Maddy, your mom, has gone forever. And there's a chapter in there about going to the Northwoods, right? And so it's like, it's funny how what I hope is that people will read it and read their own stories in there and see their own history and be like, oh yeah, we were there before. And now look at how we got out of that fishbowl. And now how can we get out of the next fishbowl too? So,
yep. Yeah, for sure.
So it's a fun process. If you've got it in your mind that you think you want to do it, give me a call. I mean, we'll talk it through. I'll help you. I'll share with my story at least and how we did it. Because you probably, if you've got a calling on your heart to write a book, God's putting that calling there. It's probably meant to be written. That's part of maybe why he created you to be on this planet. And so, yeah,
that was one of my questions. Like, what did that look like for you? Was there like a part of like where you prayed about the book, or, like, was that a big part of that step wrote about, like because I know your faith obviously is driving everything. So it's like, where did that kind of play into writing the book and knowing that was on your heart? And
well, it's so funny. So one of the ways that the book changed was in the beginning, it was going to be a business book. It was going to be like self-help business, that kind of stuff. And part of me was a little bit concerned allowing my faith to come through because I didn't want it to alienate people that could read it. But I thought, wait a minute, what bigger message is more important? Like that's the message, right? And so if you could see like some of those iterations, it really kind of started out with my faith not really being forward, and me almost being apologetic in mentioning it, to now I think every chapter has a faith component. And a big part of this is, one of the things that I want everybody to know, God created you. The Bible tells you, before you were formed in the womb, I knew you. He created you. It also tells you, I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you for good works, right? I mean, so if he created you, he knew you before you were born, and he created you for good works that he has prepared in advance for you to do. Why would he not want you to be successful? Why would he not want you to live the best life that you could live? Now, part of that best life is going to be hard stuff that comes up, right? There's always the lows. But the idea that God wants us to not live into that fully, I don't think that's right. I think that's backwards. And I think sometimes my faith background was such that, it's easy to confuse being humble with not being your fullest and your best, right? And you can be your fullest and your best and live into the purpose that God created you for while you're still humble. And I think that if you don't, there's a pastor, Mark Batterson. Again, if anybody wants to read a great book, Mark's got a ton of books that he's written. I listen to his podcast on a regular basis, his sermons. But one of the things that he helped me to see was, we always talk about your sinning and sins of commission, right? I told a lie, but there's also this whole sin of omission. And the sin of omission, I think, is when we don't take that bold step, trusting that God's going to help us through that next process to live and break out of that fishbowl that's confining us. I think that's our purpose, and that's why we're created. Well,
I think too, sometimes it's helpful. Like I think, kind of like what you were saying, like you can get stuck thinking about yourself in that situation, like this is hard for me, or whatever. It's like, but maybe I'm going through this because someone else sees me going through this thing, or and so it's like we don't always see the ripple effects of being in the fishbowl, breaking out of the fishbowl, like whatever those experiences are. But it's like all of it is part of God's plan, even if it's not all leading to good for you right in that moment. 100%.
Yeah, and I think about that a lot. We talk about Grandpa. He and I worked together in the business for 18 years. And I think about when he died, and there are things that I'm like, man, that stinks, right?
Yeah.
But then I also think about all of the things that him dying did for us. Like before he died, I never talked to Grandma. I never talked to her because I didn't have to. I saw Grandpa at the office every day. He was like our go-between. He would take like the messages back and forth. Now I talk to Grandma every day. So there are things that even in life, when you have those things that seem like a setback at the moment, you look and there's this ripple effect. And then even things like, last fall for his birthday, Grandma sent us a text in the family chat that said, can you believe Dad would have been 70 today? One of the blessings I have is I will never know my dad as an old man.
Yeah.
He'll always be in his 50s.
Yeah.
That's not such a bad thing, right? That's kind of cool. Now, I wish I would have had 20 years more with him, but there are the good things there too. And so when you talk about those ripple effects, you never know what those ripple effects are going to be. And hopefully, somewhere in there, us being able to share our faith walk even through that will help somebody else, which will, can have that ripple effect.
Well, I think it's funny you bring that up because I was just telling Matt about when Grace thought that there was an ice cream truck at Grandpa's funeral, literally last night. And so you're talking about those ripple effects. Like, obviously I wish I could have had Grandpa in my life longer, but it's like, there's two big moments. Like, first I remember when we were at the wake and we're all crying and Pastor came over and he was like, well, what's one good memory? And we started dying laughing, thinking about the time he tricked me. There was a cow on the street. It's just like, I think back to that often, like having the ability to, when you're upset, still find that thing, whatever. So that's like a small thing. And then I have to tell the story. We were at the grave site, literally front row, and my younger sister Grace.
Well, so the first, to paint the picture, there's probably 100 cars, right? There's so many cars, and all of these people around, and Aunt Kelly wanted to have bagpipes play as the casket is coming from the hearse to the gravesite. So
it's the very beginning, and literally we're standing front row, right there, like cannot be missed. And Grace is standing next to me, and I don't know how old she was. She was very little.
Well,
I was in like 6th
11
grade.
years ago from now, so like 7 years old, and the bagpipes come,
and she's hitting me on the leg, and she's like, "Maddy, is that the ice cream truck?" Maddy,
she looks up, she's like, the ice cream truck's here.
I'm like, I couldn't help but laugh. And I'm like, no, Grace, stop. That's not the ice cream truck.
And it's our whole family now is busting out in
Everybody's
laughter.
looking like, and I'm like, she thinks it's an ice cream truck.
No, you're right. But even there, you think about that. That was God providing the right levity at the right moment to let you know, listen, I got this. I've got you.
Yep.
The other thing it did is it made me disappointed that we didn't have an ice cream truck. Because I would love to have an ice cream truck, right? And so, but you're right. It's how do you put all of those life stories into a book form that hopefully then can be a witness to somebody else to help them say, well, wait a minute, I can identify with that happening or something similar in my life. If they could do it, why can't I do it? They're no smarter than I am. I could go do that as well. And so the journey for writing the book was a good one. It was therapeutic. It was helped me to understand more of how I thought. And there's a lot of good things that came out of it. And so I really would encourage anybody, if you're thinking about writing a book, if it's God's put it on your heart, don't let it be intimidating. Don't let it feel like overwhelming. There are resources out there you can pick up and read a couple of books about it. Yeah. Give me a call. Seriously, shoot me an email. Give me a call. Would love to help anybody if they got it on their mind.
Well, and where were you when you finished the first draft?
Yeah, I'll never forget that. Right. Yeah. So when it was done, I'm sitting in Austin, Texas. The beautiful background. I had a business trip down there, and I extended a day, and I told everybody, listen, I'm finishing this book before we're done. And so I finished it there. It was kind of embarrassing because I'm sitting out there. I started crying. I'm not usually a crier. That's not who I am. But it was a relief. It was joyful. Just
because that's a part of you writing the book. Like, you have your own memories of writing the book, but then being part of your family, I have my own memories of you writing the book. And that's one of my memories that I won't forget. When you sent us that picture of the background, you're like, sent a selfie, and he's like, I finished the book. So, yeah. So we're going to do a little series on this. Could do a couple more episodes. Yep. We'll talk about coming up in the next episodes. We'll talk a little bit about the book, but we'll even dig into what's it like to have the ripple effect of having somebody that's looking to shatter fishbowls in your life, and how does that affect you and all that stuff too, right? Yep.
So if you want more resources, please head to our website, pv-wp.com. Thank you.
The Retirement Readiness Podcast with Tim and Maddy Reagan. Presented by Prairie View Wealth and Tax Advisors. Live your 2 life. Learn more at pv-wp.com. And while you're at it, don't forget to like and subscribe to the Retirement Readiness Podcast on your preferred podcast platform.